Is that all? Do you want to bring yours? You okay? Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you so much once again for coming. And again, let me apologize that we've not been able to keep to our Wednesday press briefings. The intention is that we should try and keep Wednesday as much as possible, but we were not able to for a number of reasons. But all the same, I thought today, Monday, is a good day for us to start. The first issue I want to talk about today is obviously as government to once again condemn the violence that was experienced in Chilanga yesterday. I am aware, both as a government chief spokesperson, but also as acting Minister of Home Affairs, that there was an incident yesterday in Chilanga between the PF and the UPND cadres as they both left their camps to go out in the campaign yesterday. As President Lungu has stated many times before, the position of government is that we condemn any act of violence during elections. Elections are a time for those who are vying for public office to put across their ideas in a very peaceful manner. We believe that it's only when there is a failure to communicate these ideas that people resort to physical prowess. As far as government is concerned, we condemn these violent acts that took place yesterday, and we are encouraging particularly the PF cadres to take the leadership and show, as President Lungu has stated many times before, that the PF is supposed to be a very peaceful party, and that what we'll be communicating in Chilanga is purely a development agenda, so that the PF candidate there can win the election. I think the second issue is to continue to congratulate the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue for the work they have continued to do. They have continued to consult all stakeholders on the path of dialogue. As government, we are watching very keenly and are very interested in making sure that the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, which is the accepted platform by the majority of citizens to carry out the dialogue agenda, and we want to continue to encourage them. We are aware that they will be holding a meeting very soon, I believe this week, to begin to put together an agenda of the national dialogue, and we just want to continue to encourage them. As Zambians, I think that we did agree a while back that the Center for Inter-Party Dialogue is the platform for politicians, for political parties, for political leaders to dialogue out their issues. And I think this still stands, and we have every confidence that we Zambians can be able to address our own issues, that we've been doing this for the last over 50 years of independence, and that we will continue to do this. And as such, we want to continue to encourage the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue to continue to do their work diligently, so that we can continue to talk to each other and engage. The third issue I want to share with you, as part of the digital migration, where we've made a lot of progress as government, we're also going further, working with the Chinese government to start the Village TV program. The Village TV program is part of a bigger agenda where over 10,000 villages in Africa will be given access to digital television. Here in Zambia in particular, we are hoping to provide television to over 500 villages. This is digital television, and very soon we'll be calling upon His Excellency President Lungu to officially launch this project in one of the rural areas. What this will entail is that we'll be providing, as government, with the support of the Chinese government, communal television facilities in a number of villages, and this should assist our citizens to be able to access television facilities. This is part of the bigger agenda to provide universal television access in Zambia within the next 2 years. The digital migration itself will be complete in December 2019, and we are hoping that at that same time we can have universal television access in Zambia. This, to me, is a prerequisite for citizens in a democracy to be able to engage their governments, to be able to engage each other. I think that provision of television for entertainment, for news, for information is a very important cornerstone of democracy. So this is a good achievement for us as Zambians, as citizens, and I think we should be very proud of ourselves because it will be a real milestone to have universal television access. And this is in line also with mobile penetration. I know that the Ministry of Transport and Communication are also working that in the next 18 months to 24 months, we should have universal mobile access in the country. I think this will do a lot for the country in terms of social and economic development. Still with the Ministry of Transport and Communication, you know that the government continues to be committed to the growth of the ICT sector in the country. We believe that the growth of the ICT sector will see rapid growth in economic and social development. But obviously, the Ministry of Transport and Communication has also experienced a number of challenges vis-a-vis the growth of the ICT sector. And clearly, with the growth of the industry, there's been need to review the policy on how the ICT sector will be governed. A number of years ago, 25 years ago, there was no internet in Zambia, there were no mobile phones, and now with the advent of this technology, clearly we have to provide new policy direction and governance in terms of the sector. But also, with this new technology that is accessible to a lot of citizens globally and of course in Zambia, we also must look at how do we protect the citizens, especially the children. These are issues that the Ministry of Transport has been grappling with, and obviously our colleagues from ZICTA, and this is why you see them at this meeting today. I think that the growth of the sector, we are all aware, especially yourselves as the media, the number of threats that have been posed around the world, threats against governments, threats in terms of hacking, in terms of financial transactions, threats in terms of data protection, management of data, and all these global threats that have evolved as a result of the ICT growth has made it even more clear to us as government that we do need to have policy reforms and new regulation to manage so that our citizens can continue to enjoy this sector. And I think more importantly, it has also brought to the fore the credibility of the media, that as the ICT sector has grown, it is important that we continue to protect good media houses from the bad media houses. And I think at the end of the day, the ICT sector influences all of us, our lives, whether you're in banking, whether you're a citizen using your mobile phone, whether you're in education, you're in health, whether you're in the media, whether you're a child, because many children now have access to smartphones. And it is for that reason that government decided that the 2009 Electronic Communications and Transaction Act must be reformed. What we've decided to do is unbundle that one single act into three pieces of legislations. They are now in draft form, and the consultation process is going on before the Minister of Transport and Communication actually brings these pieces of draft legislation to Cabinet. I think the three pieces of legislation that the Minister of Transport and Communication will be bringing, the first one is the Cyber Security and Cyber Crimes draft bill. And this is the one that will actually provide for the Zambia National Cyber Security Agency, which will be formed to address issues of cyber crime. And one of the things that this legislation, once passed by Parliament, will provide is actually new jobs, because we'll need expertise on people who are trained as cyber security experts. So it will create new jobs, new expertise, new training for this agency, so that we can be able to monitor the cyberspace in terms of cyber crimes and how to protect ourselves from such cyber crimes. It also facilitates for identification, for declaration and protection of critical information structure. We did circulate in advance detailed information on the 3 pieces of legislation. I think the second one is the draft electronic government commerce and transaction bill. Again, before, it was one piece of legislation that was facilitating for cyber crimes, for electronic transaction, for our own social interaction. And we found that that bill was too broad and non-specific, and that made that piece of legislation very, very weak. What we've decided now is to unbundle it and provide for these 3 pieces of legislation, looking at cyber crimes, which will provide for the cyber crime agency, and also providing for this one dealing specifically with commerce and transaction, so that when you're doing online banking, you yourself can be very sure and confident that your money is safe. The last one is the draft data protection bill. And again, this is to be able to provide for the principles for protection of personal information and communication. It will also provide for prevention of unlawful use, collection, processing, transmission, and storage of personal information of identifiable persons. It will provide for data retention. It will also establish a data protection unit and provide for its functions, among others. We believe that these 3 bills are timely. First of all, they are part of the bigger global agenda, a continental agenda under the African Union framework, but also a SADC agenda, where we've continued as governments to express concern at the amount of cyber crimes that are being committed in Africa. In fact, one report, I will share with you the source later on, I think is claiming that about $3.5 billion is lost in Africa from cyber crimes. And these are various amounts of cyber crimes: fraud from individuals, fraud from banking institutions in Africa, and various amounts of financial frauds. Here in Zambia, we've also seen it. There are a number of people, for those of you that watched Sunday interview yesterday, you did hear that ZICTA has successfully prosecuted a number of citizens who have been frauding other citizens using the internet, whether it is Facebook, it's WhatsApp, hiding under pseudonyms and claiming that they had a service or goods to sell certain people, and as a result they masquerade and get money from citizens under false pretenses. So it is important that these laws are put in place, and these laws, the basic cornerstone of these laws is first to protect citizens. We all want to use this ICT. It's a very important technology, but in using it, whether as politicians, whether as doctors, as teachers, whether as media practitioners, we all must be protected. We must be protected that your phones are not being hacked. In fact, I think it is a law in Zambia that nobody should intercept your communication except under very extreme conditions. So you want to feel safe that as you use your phone, it is protected. And this is what this law wants to provide, that you feel safe as you use your ICT. So I did say that we circulated in advance that statement. In line with these 3 pieces of legislation, clearly, we also have to look at the Access to Information Bill, which has been outstanding for quite a long time. Now, when we began discussing it a number of years ago, the Access to Information Bill was being discussed outside the influence of technology. Today, it is just not media practitioners that can demand for information from anywhere. Any citizen with the phone, with access to any information, has the potential to be able to publish it, bypassing everyone. We have to ensure that we provide in the cyber crimes bill, in the access to information bill, how data will be managed, government data, how it will be managed, how the citizen should be able to access government information, and how government using these new pieces of legislation that we are proposing, should even store data electronically, and how that can then be accessed by who, at what stage, and at what point. So these are the challenges that government is facing now with the advancement of new technology. And with that, we felt that it was important that we review the policies, we review the existing legislation, and with that, we also add the access to information bill and how technology is going to impact it in the future going forward, and what we can do to ensure that the citizens have the right to access information that they should access, and how government itself can even disseminate information and store it electronically, because now we don't have to store everything in hard copy files with the advancement of technology. And that's how that will impact the way government does its work. You're already aware that as far as cabinet is concerned, now it's electronic cabinet. We are not using papers anymore. So all these issues, all this evolution that's happening has to be managed with the right governance systems, meaning the laws and the policies. I thought it was important to share this with you, particularly the cybercrime laws. Last week or the week before, during the Press Freedom Week, there was a lot of anxiety about these laws being targeted at media houses. They're not about the media. The media is just a small part of this. This is about citizens, because as far as the cyber space is concerned, we are all now engaging on the cyberspace. Me and my lady there can engage physically, but apart from that, we can also engage just on the virtual space, the physical space, and we have to provide for how we manage our engagement in the physical space, socially, economically, in terms of education, in terms of health, whichever way we engage physically on the virtual space, we have to be able to provide for the law to safeguard all of us against those who want to abuse the ICT space. So that is the basis of these laws, and I thought it's important that we explain that, and that's why we've gone ahead to actually give you a written statement. So on that, I'm happy to take questions on these issues and any other issues, and hopefully that written statement will also help give you an understanding of what government is trying to achieve. But I'm happy to take questions. Launched will continue. You know, it's every last Saturday of the month, and I think the next official launch is likely to be on the Copper Belt in Kitwe. We just want as government to continue to urge Zambians that let us remember to be clean, and to be clean means to keep our surroundings clean. It's just not the clothes we are wearing, but we have to keep our surroundings clean. I think that's the message of the Keep Zambia Clean, Keep Zambia Green, and Keep Zambia Healthy. So the next Saturday, the last Saturday of the month, I think is the 26th of May. It will once again be Keep Zambia Clean Day, and we'll all be expected, all of us, including my colleagues from the media, that we all begin to clean our working places so that we do indeed keep Zambia clean and green and healthy. I'll take questions. Yes, please. I can't see you. Maybe if you stand. Yes, please.
I have 3 questions.
If you speak quickly so we can give you a chance to your colleagues.
The first one is has to do with the dialogue.
Yes, please.
I think the UPND, the stated that if the ZCID chairs the talks, the outcome of the talks, and when you look at the fact that UPND is the largest opposition party, and if you are not part of the dialogue, do you think it's necessary to have these talks of government? And then the next one is in September, the Forum on China-Africa Summit will be held in China. Mm-hmm. And I think Zambia and China are good friends. So my question is, what are your expectations as Zambia and Africa as you go to China? And then during the 2015 summit in Johannesburg, China provided about $60 billion. I don't know, as Zambia, how have you benefited from this? And then the last question is on lap green. I think lap green, the latest.
So 4 questions, not 3.
No. Lap green.
No. Anyway, quickly, yes, go ahead.
Lap green has the latest that they have written to Zambia's lenders complaining over non-payment of the Nkongole. Maybe from you as government, why are you not paying the money? When are you going to pay them?
Okay. Maybe I should answer these questions since there are 4 of them, you know. The last one on lab green, I do know that the issues of Zamtel are under the Industrial Development Corporation, and I do know that discussions with lab green have been ongoing for a long time. I think that when they have been logically concluded, I'll be able to give an announcement to the nation. As of now, I do not believe that there's been any conclusion, and so these are live discussions that are going on. On the issue of the FOCAC meetings with China that were held in Johannesburg and 60 billion pledged, I think that Zambia has continued as a country to benefit from these funds from China. You've seen that a lot of our infrastructure in Zambia has been done under financial structures from China, whether particularly through the China Exim Bank. And I believe that as a country, our engagement with China, our relations with China, our participation at the FOCAC, the Africa-China Summit in 2015, has continued to benefit us. We've seen accelerated infrastructure development in Zambia, which probably would have never happened without this close relationship that we have with China, particularly in the last 10 years. So we believe that even as Zambia goes to FOCAC in China in September, we'll continue to look at how best can we accelerate development for people in Zambia, whether it is roads infrastructure, whether it is other type of infrastructure. We still need investment in energy in this country, especially in rural areas, so that we can open them up for more jobs and more economic development. So I believe that Zambia will continue to value its friendship with China, and that if there are any funds out there being provided by the Chinese, committed by the Chinese at these platforms, these are resources Zambia would like to tap in so that we can meet our development deficit gap, so that we can provide development to our people. The issue of dialogue, I think Zambia is made up of 16, 17 million Zambians, and I think the 16 million Zambians are very eager to see the country move forward. And I think in the country moving forward, the Zambians spoke very loudly in August 2016, and they decided to put a government and a president in office. And in doing that, they have entrusted the President Lungu and the government of the affairs of this nation until 2021. And so I have every confidence, and government has every confidence, that the dialogue process by good-meaning Zambians will proceed, because Zambians would like to see the country focused on issues of development, on issues of job creation. And in doing that, the Zambians would like to discuss whichever issues that I think are outstanding. And as citizens, we've all agreed that there are lacunas in the Constitution that need to be discussed, with or without the UPND. I think the Zambians would like to discuss that. I think that the Zambians want to look at issues of electoral reform. I think that the Zambians, all well-meaning Zambians, want to look at issues of civility and tolerance in politics. They want to ensure that as we go forward, we can all be able to continue to use a platform which we created ourselves, the Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, which we created ourselves and said to ourselves, whenever we have differences, this is the platform we will use. And I think that well-meaning Zambians, in fact, even those who belong to the UPND as members, well-meaning Zambians, I think would like to see this country move forward and not be stuck in 2016 elections. because the rest of us are in 2018. Now, I think that there's a separation between the UPND leadership and the UPND members, because I'm quite convinced that the UPND members, who are just Zambians like all of us, they want to move forward. And maybe it is time, instead of us as Zambians questioning ourselves, maybe it's the UPND that needs to question its leadership. That where do they want to take the party? Because for the rest of us as Zambians, we're very clear where we want to go. We want to continue with a peaceful Zambia. We don't want imaginary problems in our country. We want to continue with a peaceful Zambia, not imaginary problems. We want to continue that, yes, whenever there are disagreements, like on the Constitution, we can actually sit down and discuss them. We don't want imaginary hurdles. We want to say, yes, where there's intolerance and lack of civility in our politics, we can sit down and say, whether it's the media, whether it's us politicians, that let us all be civil. In fact, it's just a good thing to be civil anyway. So I think that the rest of the Zambians want to move forward. So for me, I don't think that the UPND leadership should deter the rest of the country, because the rest of the country has moved on while the UPND leadership is stuck in 2016. I think even the members of UPND have moved on, and they'll do well to be looking for new leadership that can move them forward, because if a leadership is stuck, then it's not serving you really. So I think those are my answers to those questions. Yes, please.
Well, was Fonda and my name's, and I just want to ask on the ATI bill, the Access to Information Bill.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that we're in 2018, and I think prior to the 2011 elections, I think the ATI was promised that it would be delivered or given to the Zambians the soonest. So up to 2018, no, it has not been given to us. How urgent is it, with you as
Well, for government, we have a responsibility to the citizens to ensure that the citizens access information that is due to them, especially in terms of how government expends their resources. I think government has a responsibility to make information available. And I think in Zambia, we are one of the countries that have done quite well on this path, because even now, we already have laws that exist to make it possible for citizens, not just the media, because the media are the conduit, but for citizens to access information. And a lot of information in Zambia is actually already in the public domain anyway. But we do want to provide for regulation that should provide for how citizens access this information to enhance the existing regulations. And in doing this, we are saying, okay, maybe there has been passage of time. It is true. In the last 7 years, one of the challenges that the government has been making to the media has been that, look, because the media hijacked the access to information agenda. It's not just about the media, it's about citizens. But it was hijacked by the media to be just about the media. And one of the things that government called for was that, look, if indeed the media, you want to champion this, first look at yourselves. Look at your levels of training, look at your levels of ethics. If a journalist is going to sit down on the computer and fabricate a story and publish it in a newspaper, are we going to say that journalist is entitled to access to information? That is a challenge we gave you, that if you are going to sit down and actually fabricate a story and publish it without any remorse to say, I'm a trained journalist, I have ethics, I have professional standing, I must be concerned, just like I've used this example many times, that the Law Association of Zambia, if a lawyer is going to conduct himself, the lawyers will stand up and say, don't bring disrepute to our profession. If a doctor is going to misconduct themselves, the doctors will stand up all day and say, don't bring misconduct. When one of you, journalists, fabricates a story, who stands up and say, please, me, I went to university or I went to college, I trained as a good journalist, please don't bring disrepute to my profession? Who does that? So we've said many times that it is the onus is among you journalists. And I'm happy that, speaking to PAZA, speaking to NISA, speaking to the Zambia Union of Journalists, they have said it is true. If we do not treat media practice as a profession, then it will be seen as something that anybody else can do. Then it's not a serious job. But if it is indeed a serious job that calls for a certain level of training, then it must be protected. And who's going to protect it? Yourselves, isn't it? Who's going to protect it? Yourselves. Just like the lawyers protect themselves, the doctors protect themselves. So government has been very clear. Come up with self-regulation to show that you value this job, this profession, and when you do, then government will work with you on the issues that we are already working with citizens anyway, on the Access to Information Bill. And now we have said, because of technology, we have to relook at the Access to Information Bill. Because now, it's not just journalists who have the preserve of publishing. Now, any citizen, anyone sitting anywhere, even him sitting in his office, can take his phone and publish on WhatsApp or publish on Facebook, bypassing you. So how do we then regulate or manage Access to Information Bill when any citizen now, as long as they have access to a computer, to a smartphone, can publish? And we are saying these are challenges that you, the media, and us government must work together on. At no time is the media being challenged to have more ethics and professionalism than now. Because if you don't, the profession will die, because anybody will say they can do it. Anybody will say they can do it. So what will be special about you? So you have to defend your profession by making sure that you come up with self-regulation, isn't it? And say what I do, somebody down the road can't do. Just like lawyers will tell you that you can't do their job. Isn't it? Is that clear? He looks very perturbed. So in that, all I'm saying is that it is very important, the freedom, the Access to Information Bill is very important to us as government. All we are doing, in fact, we are the ones now talking to you about it. And what we are saying is that we want, working with the Ministry of Transport and ZICTA, as we look at the cybercrime bills, we want to make sure that we work in tandem with the Access to Information Bill and how we are going to provide for technology. Because now a lot of access to information is not being done through documents stamped secret, it's being done electronically. And even government now with Smart Zambia is storing a lot of information electronically. So how do we now update the Access to Information Bill so that it is in tandem with the other pieces of legislation, such as those from ZICTA and Transport, the cybercrime bills, so that we can provide for technology and how it will impact access to information. So it's a real priority for us. You can see our colleagues have already provided the drafts from the Ministry of Transport and Communication. I have said to the acting permanent secretary here, it's very important that we sit down very quickly, hopefully this week or next week, and begin also to look at the existing draft and how we can provide for the impact of technology on the bill. Yes,
concerning the violence, concerning the violence in Chilanga, there is a video that has gone viral on social media where UPND cadres are riding on the words of their Vice President, GPM, that the whole election there will be panga for panga, and they have vowed to assault and attack any PF cadres that they come across. And then there are images that emanated yesterday of UPND throwing stones and all. Has there been any official complaint or action from government on those words or that orchestrated the violence there, which they are also using to ride on, or any action taken in respect with the Electoral Commission of Zambia to intervene?
I suppose that is one of the positives from social media, that it's very quickly for citizens to police the community very quickly. And I'm happy that ZICTA is here today, because going forward, these are the issues that we'll be working on very quickly to ensure that we can bring people to book, whether it is through videos or it's even through messaging or abuse of other people online, even if you use pseudonyms, we will be able to find you. There are laws existing already, and I think we did distribute some of those laws, issues of defamation and so on and so forth. But I think the point I'm trying to make with your question is that government is going to become very serious in protecting citizens against abuse of the media and abuse of technology. And when we get, like you are saying, I haven't seen the video of people recording themselves and purporting that yes, they will be going panga for panga. First of all, why would the people of Chilanga want to vote in a violent people? President Lungu has been on record, whether it's PF cadres or any other cadre that is involved in violence, he's been very quick to condemn that violence. It's why even today as government, we are condemning the violence yesterday in Chilanga, which we know involved a fracas between PF cadres and UPND cadres, because their camps are close by and they met along the way and fighting erupted. So we want to condemn that. What I would like you to tell me is when UPND leadership will condemn this. You come and tell me that you've received a report from UPND leadership that they have condemned violence, because I've not yet heard UPND leadership condemn violence. What we are hearing is what you are saying, where UPND leadership even brags about panga for panga in Chilanga. They even brag about it. While we are very concerned about issues of peaceful dialogue, they are bragging about violence and how they don't want to recognize anybody in this country. They don't want to recognize the president. They don't want to recognize the government. Obviously, they are saying they don't recognize you as citizens anyway. So if they don't recognize you as citizens, why should you go and vote for them? It's as simple as that. By extension, if they say they don't recognize the government, they don't recognize the president, they are telling you that they don't recognize you Zambians because you all don't think very well because you went to vote in the PF. So why would you want to vote people who say you don't think properly into office? Why would the people of Chilanga want to vote in people who say we are just, our only development agenda is panga for panga? Look, I think that the decision for the people of Chilanga is very clear, and as acting Minister of Home Affairs, I am urging the Inspector General of Police that he must leave no stone unturned to make sure that he deals with those who want to show their faces on social media and claiming that they are champions of violence. I think that Inspector General of Police should not leave any stone unturned, and the citizens want him to account by making sure that they are brought to book, and nobody must be spared. The president has been very clear. Whenever there is violence, nobody must be spared, because citizens, even as I listened to the radio this morning, I like to listen to Millennium Radio. The citizens, I heard ordinary Zambians talking that they don't want violence. What they would like is to just go and make vote. And whom they vote for is up to them. But I don't see how they can be encouraged to vote for people who are championing violence. So in that sense, I'm sure Zicta can help the Inspector General of Police with information of people who are posting these pictures. It's possible for Zicta to know which phone and which person. It might take a while, but it is very possible for Zicta to know who's posting malicious information, who's posting rumors and lies. And this is why you're seeing Zicta here, because government now is not going to sit back and allow a group of citizens to believe they can hold the whole country hostage. And that is because our citizens, they do need a lot of education, Zicta, in that our citizens must know that when you are abused online, you have the right to go and report to Zicta, and Zicta will follow up. They can be able to tell who's doing what, where, and when. And I think if people think that they can post violent videos online and believe they'll get away with it, I think I'm asking the Inspector General of Police to work very closely with Zicta, that this is the first time people will really be arrested for posting violent videos on online and boasting that they're going to be violent, and they think they can get away with it. We are a decent country. We are a country that has values, and we're a country It doesn't matter, in fact, which political party you belong to. If in your heart you cannot condemn violence, there is something wrong with you, period. Because when violence comes, as we've seen in other countries, it will not choose. In fact, maybe the politicians will survive. It's the media that suffers first. It is the ordinary citizens that suffer. And we have a responsibility as government to protect you, because you don't want to be found in a situation where you have to run for your lives, do you? Of course not. So on this one, as far as fighting violence is concerned, I believe that you, the media and government, we are on the same side. We are on the same side. And I will be the first person to protect you if anybody is going to show violence towards you. Whether they be from PF or they be from anywhere, I want to be the first one to protect you. Because when there is violence, you'll be the ones who will be found in that situation. So on this one, I believe we're on the same side. And that's why you must condemn, without any reservation, those that fail to condemn violence and they say they are leaders. Those that can tell young people that go panga for panga, then they'll not be in the field doing panga for panga. They'll be in their beautiful houses. But young kids, young youths who are misguided will be drunk and will be doing panga for panga. And you'll be there to be recording that to be yourselves. The politicians will be sitting nicely in their homes. So you have every responsibility to condemn this. You have every responsibility to condemn this. Are you aware of this video, Zita?
I haven't seen it personally, but I have looked at some videos.
Please, sorry?
I haven't seen it personally, but we can follow up. We shall certainly have a look at it and see whether any offense was committed and take relevant action in that regard.
Yes, please. The ladies. I saw in the newspaper, oh, thank you, I'm glad there's a lady there. I saw in the newspaper the Daily Mail MD saying, women rise to get your positions. So please, rise.
I just want to make a follow-up on Zambia here. They are going on strike starting from tomorrow because they've gone 8 months without pay. Is there anything that government is going to do?
As I said to you last time, that the Times of Zambia is under the Industrial Development Corporation, and I cannot sugarcoat it for you. Times of Zambia is in a bad situation. I cannot sugarcoat it for you. It's in a very bad situation. In fact, at this point, it's actually insolvent. Bankrupt is the word. And I think that what the IDC are trying to do, working frantically, is to see how do we resolve this situation. 1, it is overstaffed. 2, it's under circulation. 3, it means that if it's overstaffed and under circulation, where's the money going to come to support the staff? So tough decisions have to be made, including letting go of staff, including reorganization of the business model. As long as the business model is not coming, there's no way you're going to find money to pay the staff. Like I said to you, there's a disruption of traditional media now. Many of you yourselves don't even buy a newspaper now. You read your news from somewhere else. So if you're not buying a newspaper, it means even the advertisers know that this newspaper is not selling, so why are we going to advertise there? They're going to advertise somewhere else. So the problems of Times of Zambia are real. I will not sugarcoat them. It will require massive overhaul. And IDC, I know, did meet with Times of Zambia staff and even Daily Mail staff, but much more Times of Zambia staff, to provide certain scenarios. Now, these scenarios will not happen overnight. And I believe that the message to the workers at Times of Zambia is that the situation is that dire. And Times of Zambia has management, it has a board, and yet the situation is dire. And government is saying, look, we have to address these issues once and for all. Like we've said to ZNBC, you have challenges, but here, the people of Zambia have increased your levy from 3 kwacha to 5 kwacha. Sort yourselves out now, because government cannot continue taking money from hospitals and schools to pay salaries for a few people. We are saying the same thing, that Times of Zambia, the problems are real there. No matter how much money government puts in there, if the model is not working, the business model is not working, the newspaper circulation, I think, is 7,000, and yet the staff, it's overstaffed. This equation is not going to work. So it needs a total overhaul. and IDC who are responsible. I know I've made certain proposals to Times of Zambia. They can only, everybody can only wait and see what IDC finally decides to do, so that we find a lasting solution, because we don't see where any more resources will come from to address the situation. I know it is a very sad situation. 8 months, they have not been paid for 8 months, and now we're even going forward and the future looks bleak. But I will call on IDC once again to find out how far they have gone. But what I did last time, if you remember, I said, look, instead of going through us as the third party, why don't you IDC and Times meet so that you can be talking to each other, so that you know what is actually happening. And I think that is what happened last time. I think there was a meeting here. We facilitated for IDC and Times of Zambia to meet so that they can talk to each other, so that they can understand where these issues have reached. But to all of you, what I can say is that Times of Zambia has serious, serious problems. You're quiet. Sorry?
I'm fine.
Okay. Anybody else, the ladies? Anyone else? No? You okay?
If there are no more questions, we would like to thank you all for coming for this press briefing. We are free to go. For all those